Welcome back in, Tide fans, to Tide Talk Live. Stacey Blackwood, joined as always by Jake Thomas as we continue our series breaking down the depth chart post-spring. We started our last episode with the defensive side of the ball on the defensive line. Now we're going to move back to the second level and look at the linebackers, Jake. And man, I cannot wait to look at this group because I think this position group has a potential to be one of the strengths of the team this fall. So just as you look at the linebackers, Jake, and kind of picture what you think they're going to look like this fall, both at both inside linebackers and both outside linebacker spots, how do you think those are going to line up this fall?
Man, good to be back again, Stacey. And man, I'm excited about the linebacking group. We're really deep. I mean, we talk every episode about how deep we are at every position, pretty much. And here we can finally talk about a true superstar, and that is Dallas Turner. Everybody's kind of concerned about not having Will Anderson, which it will be missed for sure. But Dallas Turner can lead this defensive linebacking group as well as anybody, and I believe he's going to be the next guy coming in, but he's not going to be alone. I mean, we saw a couple of guys step up last year late in the season, and then there's guys like you kind of like, okay, what do we do with them? And like Sean Murphy and guys like that. Kendall Blatshaw's another guy. Blatshire, he's a physical specimen, but there's no room to put him on the field, unless he's a second or third string guy. So, it's loaded at every position at the linebacking side of the ball.
Yeah, it's when I look at this group, like I mentioned in the opening, I really think this has a chance to be a strength of the Alabama defense, maybe the strength of the Alabama defense. I like Dallas Turner. I love Dallas Turner. I think he's a first-round draft pick. Chris Braswell has put on the weight this offseason so he can be more physical in the running game on the opposite side of Dallas Turner. We know that he's a really good pass rusher, so I like what we have on the edge. There's not a Will Anderson. There's only a handful of those. Right. But the depth behind those two guys, you got Keanu Coate, you have Jeremiah Alexander, you have the freshman, Yanzi Pierre, Keon Keeley, then you have guys like Quay Russaw. So the depth is there. It's a lot of young players when you get past, both Turner and Braswell. But those guys are super talented, and there's a few of those guys who I think have superstar potential, to have breakout years, maybe even in 2023 in certain situations. And then when you look at inside linebacker, you got Deontae Lawson, a guy who I think is a star in the making. And what do they do beside Deontae Lawson? Because I think Lawson is a starter for sure at inside linebacker, and whether if that's at the mic or the wheel, who knows? But I think he's going to be at one of those spots as a starter. Is it going to be, Justin Jefferson? Is it going to be Jihad Campbell? Is it going to be Tresman Marshall from Georgia? Kendrick Blackshire has been in the program for a couple years now, so he has a lot of experience. He's one of the best special teams players that Alabama has. So I think that position battle, to the starting linebacker opposite of Deontae Lawson, I think that's going to be one of the most interesting battles in fall camp, and how they kind of manage that is going to be interesting because I think Sean Murphy, Jake, another guy who could be there. It's just the list goes on and on with the amount of players at inside linebacker who are vying for one spot. So what they do there is going to be really interesting because, like I mentioned, Deontae Lawson to me all but has one of those spots locked down. So then I think there's really four guys who are going to be battling for that other spot. I think it's Tresman Marshall, Justin Jefferson, Jihad Campbell, and Sean Murphy. And to me, I think right now I would probably go with either Marshall or Campbell. Mm-hmm. But I think Justin Jefferson's right there, and Murphy's a little bit further down than those guys. But I really like that position group, and I think it's going to be better than what we've had the last couple of years.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Stacey. And, we talk about who's going to be starting, and you said all four guys could potentially, be the starter opposite of Lawson. But the thing about it is I'm anxious to see the rotation. We talked about the rotation on the defensive front on the last episode. What's this rotation going to be like? Because, you get to the second team, it's just as deep and loaded as the first team. So, keeping these guys fresh and is going to be a huge for how deep Alabama goes this season on the defensive side.
Yeah, especially at inside linebacker, Coach Saban hasn't traditionally rotated a lot of guys. He usually kind of sticks with who his guys are at inside linebacker year in and year out. But I think there might be some situational type
Right.
roles this fall for Alabama because, you look at a guy like Justin Jefferson. I don't know how you keep a guy with his ability to play downhill and then also be really, really good in coverage. You got to find a way to keep him on the field, or get him on the field. And then you look at a guy like Jahad Campbell. He has, really pass rushing traits for an inside linebacker. He's still kind of learning that role from the middle, but he has really good traits that you like and want to get on the field. Deontae Lawson's is kind of that alpha guy who's going to be the man in the middle. And then you got Tresman Marshall, who's just an experienced SEC player coming from a great program like Georgia, who knows the defense, who knows the system, who's going to know the calls. So I just think you could kind of see a by committee, not a by committee approach from Nick Saban in Alabama at inside linebacker, where they have some maybe specific roles for each individual player. So I think that could be big for Alabama. Like you mentioned, it keeps guys fresh, it keeps guys healthy, and it gets your best players on the field, and that's really what the coaching staff wants.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. This is a siding group. I'm not really worried about linebackers unless a couple injuries happen, which I don't. Hopefully, they don't. But even if it does, there's experienced guys necessary to step in and take that role. And from a standpoint of just looking at, Dallas Turner is going to be rushing the quarterback every single play. He's going after where the ball is at, and that's pretty much his primary job. And then Lawson is he can do the same. Like you talked about, Justin Jefferson. In A-Day, man, he was all over the field, like you mentioned, and I'm in agreement with you. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. He may not be the starter right away, but later in the season, he will take that role and just run with it.
Yeah, I think he could do kind of like Deontae Lawson did last year, where you saw around the Ole Miss game. I know it had a little bit to do with injuries to Jalen Moody, but you kind of saw Deontae Lawson have a more prominent role with the first team defense, and he just kind of really started developing into that player that we all thought when he was coming out of high school. And so I think Jefferson is going to be along that same track as what Lawson was in 2022, because he's got some special elite traits for linebackers when it comes to speed, instincts, and just his aggressive nature of play, and physical nature. So I'm with you there. I think by the time the season's over, you're going to see a lot more Justin Jefferson than maybe you do at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Another guy that, maybe not so much this year, but keep your eye on for coming years. We talked about Sean Murphy. We also talked about Q Rushaw as well. He has potential to be great in the future as well. So I'm excited to see how he develops and if he can be that guy next year and the years after.
Yeah, in the spring, there was a lot of talk when he's coming out of high school because he's kind of a tweener. Is he going to be an edge player? Is he going to play inside linebacker? And during the spring, he played on the edge, so you got to assume that he's going to stay there this fall at least. And but I imagine he's going to get a little work at other spots as well because he is that kind of guy who he's only around 6'3", 230, 235, so he's kind of light in the britches for an edge player, a guy who gets in a 3-point stance a good bit of the time. So if he can put on weight, he'll be fine. But he has a lot of skill and a lot of talent that he'll be a really good player for it's all said and done, whether it's at inside linebacker or at outside linebacker. But when you talk about freshmen in this linebacker group, whether it's on the inside or on the edge, you got to start with Keon Keeley, Jake. I think this guy is, I think we say this too much when we compare players or this guy's going to be the next so-and-so. But to me, Keon Keeley is as close to the next Will Anderson as you're going to get as far as just his ability to make plays and be disruptive. He's 6'6", 250, long arms, athletic, can bend, high motor. he just has it all, Jake. And I don't know, despite having Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, Jeremiah Alexander, and Keanu Coate, guys who are older players ahead of him at the moment, I just don't see a way that Keeley doesn't crack the first team defense in that rotation before it's all said and done, and maybe even have an impactful season, much like Will Anderson did as a true freshman a few seasons back.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Keon Keeley is going to take this team and the nation by storm, I believe. And I really like Braswell, but he's got to be looking behind him like, man, this kid's good. And I really like Braswell. I think he's going to be a really great player for us, but he's going to have to improve every single game because I don't think Dallas Turner's in any kind of position to lose his spot. I think it's going to be Chris Braswell. And Keon Keeley probably knows that. If he wants to see some time, it's going to be where Braswell is at. So he's going to be pushing him hard, I do believe.
Yeah, and Braswell, like I said earlier, he put on some weight to kind of help himself be a little more effective against the run. He just wasn't quite physical enough last year. Only played around 240, so he was a little light. I think he's up to around 255. He might even be the heaviest edge player for Alabama right now. So he went from being one of the lightest to the heaviest. So he realized it was important for him to be a more physical football player so he can set the edge better and be a three-down player if need be. So I think Braswell's fine. I think he'll be a good player for Alabama, but I'm with you. I think some of these younger guys could steal a little bit of his thunder this fall because I think they're just that next level of talent.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm not really worried about the linebacker positions for a couple of years. There's talent all across the board. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they click next year after losing Dallas Turner. Who's going to be that guy to be the leader after Dallas Turner? I feel like Deontae Lawson, be that guy, and after that, it's just hungry athletes at that linebacking core next year for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, that's going to wrap up our post-spring linebacker depth chart projections as we continue our series. If you haven't seen any of the rest of our episodes regarding the depth chart, go back through our catalog on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and make sure you check all those out so you can kind of catch up on that. And jump in the comments, give us your thoughts on the linebacker group, who you're excited to see, who you think the 4 starters will be, and who you think can make an impact as a rotational player as well. And will Keon Keeley see a lot of snaps as a true freshman? Can he be that next Will Anderson for Alabama? Make sure you let us know there in the comment section. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Jump in the description, hit that link to Shopify, and purchase you a Tide Talk Live t-shirt and continue to support our brand. We would greatly appreciate that. But it's been a lot of fun. Can't wait to dive back in. Real soon we'll be looking at the secondary next. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. Until next time, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.